So what we're going to talk about today is how to reduce your PG&E bill. This is not intended to be a discussion about doing things like reducing the temperature in your house from 68 to 64. You're welcome to do that, but the intention is to help you understand how you can reduce your bill without changing your lifestyle. The origin of this is the unbelievable expenses we pay for energy, and particularly this winter as the cost of natural gas rose. And this is not something that's just short term. Over the years, we have both seen major increases in the price of power, and we've also looking at projections that indicate power is going to be much more expensive in the future. One of the things that's true is we're in a world where fossil fuel is inherently very expensive, and therefore we have to look at alternatives like solar. So the second thing I want to do is just walk you quickly through what I call a primer on rate of return. When you put money into an investment in your house, you can think of getting that investment back in two ways. One is the payback, and the other is the rate of return you get. So if you invested $1,000 today and got $200 back for 15 years, the payback's 5 years. 5 years from now, you've got your $1,000 back. But the rate of return is actually over 10% because you keep getting that $200 year after year. And if you think about that, if you've got money in stocks or CDs, 10% is a pretty good looking number. So many capital investments also can be considered to raise the value of your house. There's a whole debate about how much, but if you have to pay less for energy than your next door neighbor, and you're both selling your houses and they're identical otherwise, yours should be worth more. Okay, now we'll talk about rebates and tax credits. Tax credits are a direct reduction of your taxes due. If you have no tax due, you can't capture the credit. Rebates are payments made directly to you. Some are made up front to the company installing your system. Some are in the form of a reimbursement check. But it's important to understand the difference in whether you qualify for the credits or qualify for the rebates, which often have an income qualification limit. Now, we have two great local resources. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them. These will be referenced in the handout. There is a website for us, Oakmont Futures.org, and there are plenty of references on there. This whole presentation is on there, and these links are on there. You can just click the link and go right to them. Sonoma Clean Power has an advanced energy center at 741 4th Street. This is the same block Barnes & Noble is in, but it's at this end of the block on the other side of the street. It's a great little center. It shows you the new equipment that's available for your house. It has qualified professionals who can help you understand the technologies like heat pumps. Do stop there if you're even making any changes to your house. There's also the Sonoma County Climate Action and Resiliency Division. It used to be called the Energy and Sustainability Division, but to change the name, they have qualified professionals who are employees of the county who will meet in person at their offices to help you understand energy savings. One of the neatest things they do is you can sit down with them, they'll bring up your house, they'll bring up your PG&E bill, and they'll tell you what the value of solar is on your house. They have regular webinars that cover energy topics. You can attend those, but you can also go to their YouTube channel, which has videos of prior webinars. So what are we going to talk about today? Medical baseline, income-based assistance, home energy efficiency, old appliances and lighting, new technologies like heat pumps, solar panels and batteries, and a very brief update on electric vehicles. So California has a very strong program called Medical Baseline. The concept is pretty simple. If you need electricity or gas for medical reasons, then you should pay a lower amount to cover the medical need. And so California has set that up in what is called the Medical Baseline Program. It's based entirely on medical conditions or needs. It has nothing to do with income. Eligibility goes with the resident. So if the bill's in your name, it counts if you're a renter. Okay, if the bill's in your name. Qualified things are not just things like oxygen generators, which are pretty obvious, but things like CPAP machines and medical conditions that require heating and cooling, such as MS. And the benefit is depends on how much energy you use and depends on what your plan is, but it's about $40 a month. So you find a link to this web page that gives you a lot of details on medical baseline. Explains what it is, adds questions, shows eligibility. Here's just a list of some of the additional qualifying conditions. Okay, and how to apply. So the next topic is an income-based assistance. The primary program here is called California Alternative Rates for Energy Care. It is income-based, has nothing to do with your assets. So in that sense, it's not like Medicare or Medi-Cal. If your income is less than $36,600 for a household of one or two, then you qualify for this program. You would also qualify if you are on Medicaid or Medi-Cal. It's approximately a 20% reduction in electric and gas charges, and it goes with the resident. And again, you can go to this page, which will give you the information. Now, one of the topics that's always talked about when you talk about energy is the energy efficiency of your home. Homes in Oakmont are 40, 50 years old. Unless you or someone else did a good job of improving insulation, windows, doors, whatever, you may be losing as much as 10 to 50% of your energy use may essentially be going out the window, literally. So how do you know you need an upgrade? You can check for double pane windows. You can check for attic insulation. You can check for weather stripping around your doors. You can check for leakage in your heating and cooling ducts. Now, you notice I said you can check. Well, I can't. I can't get up into my attic. I no longer feel comfortable getting up on the ladder. And you aren't necessarily qualified to make these checks. However, start by asking some of your neighbors to come over and walk you through your house and help you understand what you've got. If you have a handyman who comes by, you can ask him to go up in your attic and tell you what he sees with regard to the insulation. They're also professionals. There are two professional evaluations you want to look at. One is home energy analytics. This is part of a PG&E program. This looks at information about your home and energy use online. So you give them information, they analyze data, but do not do an on-site inspection. Let's take a quick look at what mine looks like. Okay. I'm having a problem logging in at the moment, so I'm just going to go back and continue. What they basically do is analyze your data through a very sophisticated program that looks at how much energy your house uses, what time of day you use it, and compares it to similar homes. And they'll give you an analysis that's actually pretty interesting. Doesn't cost anything, but they don't come to your house. You can go and get a formal home energy audit. Professionals come to your home, they go into your attic and crawl space, they review your windows and doors, recommend changes. Costs about $500. I can assure you it can easily be worth it. This is the page from the County of Sonoma with the people who are permitted to do these kind of inspections, long list. As with anything, and we'll talk about this separately, as with anything here, you want to ask for some references, preferably in Oakmont, and call those references and see how they did. I'll just tell you, we used Phase Energy, and Lawrence did an excellent job for us of looking at our house. Now, there are a lot of other ways to save. If you have, we're all Scotch in our nature, and we tend to keep refrigerators, and TVs, and computers as long as we can. The problem can be if you have an old refrigerator, an old TV, an old dryer, they are likely to be inefficient compared in electronic use because there's been so much emphasis made on reducing energy use. So as you look at replacing these items, don't think of yourself as being brilliant because you've still got that 15-year-old TV. You may be able to save enough money by buying a new TV to pay for it just with the energy savings. Do you have a second refrigerator or a separate freezer? Understand that one of the highest uses of energy is your refrigerator. And so if you have two of them, be sure that you're willing to pay the money to run the second one. Do you use LED light bulbs? If you're still using conventional light bulbs, you can save 90% of the energy use by using an LED light bulb. Yes, it's expensive, but when you're saving 90% of the energy, the payback is almost a few years. Now, there used to be a solution, which are the CFL bulbs. That was the first generation of replacement for conventional. And like many people, I bought a number of CFLs. They're not what you should be using today for two reasons, one of which they're not as efficient as LED, and they're more expensive. But the second of which is they contain mercury, and you just don't want to have them in the environment. Okay, you should be using a smart thermostat. You should be using it to control temperature according to what you want. So if you want the temperature to be 68 in the day and you're happy with 64 at night, then you want a thermostat that says, okay, it's 9 o'clock, we're going to start cutting the temperature back to 64. And then, okay, it's 7 a.m., you're about to get up, we're going to move the temperature back up to 68. Save a lot of energy that way. If you have skylights and use your fireplace, be sure to look at ways you can reduce energy use there. Note that a number of these savings can apply if you're a renter. So whether it's the light bulbs, whether it's the old TVs, or whether it's talking to your landlord about minor changes, certainly anytime he's looking at a change, you want to be sure that it's being energy efficient. Now, the big changes are heat pumps and induction range tops. So we're going to talk about heat pumps for heating and cooling first. So this is a graphic of what's called a full house heat pump. A full house heat pump is structured similar to your current system with one enormous difference. There is an outside unit, think of this as your air conditioning unit, and an inside unit that literally goes where your current furnace is. So these two are connected by piping that allows heat to be exchanged much more efficiently by these two units, and the reduction in energy use of 30 to 50% compared to the natural gas system you now use for your furnace and the energy system you now use for your air conditioner. The technology on this is interesting. It basically is these systems are able to take heat and cooling by compressing air by the way that the air conditioner currently does, but it's much more sophisticated. Suffice it to say, it works. Now, there's another alternative in the heat pump area, and that's what's called a mini split. A mini split operates for basically one room. But if you basically are only going to use one room during most of the day, it may turn out that this is a much more efficient way to heat and cool your house than it is a standard way. And the advantage is it's cheaper. So if you're going to finance these, you want to go to Snow and Clean Power. They have rebates for heat pumps. They have rebates for hot water heat pumps. And I'm not going to go into those in detail, but those are quite efficient if what you have today is a conventional hot water tank that is powered by natural gas. They would also help you get an induction range top if that's what you want. I will tell you that the amount of savings in energy for induction range top are not enormous. The main advantage is it replaces the use of natural gas with electricity. And my wife and I are regular cooks. We love cooking. And we've made every change in our house you can, except we still use a gas range top. And the cost for running a gas range top is like $8 a month. They have also offered financing at no interest. That program is paused now. There is also a program at the Sonoma County Energy Resiliency Division that they can get you into. That does have an interest rate, but it does help you finance these programs. Now, if you're a renter, keep in mind that anytime your landlord has to consider replacing furnace, air conditioning unit, or hot water tank, that's a time to have a discussion about bringing in this kind of technology. I will also say that Bay Oriental Regional Agency also has rebates. I've been told they're very difficult and not very large, so nobody I've talked to has ever used them. I'll just have to make that point if you want to chase everything in the world down. Now, there is a big change coming from what's called the Inflation Reduction Act. You now have federal tax credits. So if you have a heat pump, you can get as much as $2,000, a water heater $2,000. Electric panel changes sometimes are needed in order to run all the stuff we're talking about. And then if you want to do some basic weatherization like double pane windows. Okay, these are limited to a maximum of $2,000 a year, and they are tax credits. But in our case, we put in we have a 2,100 square foot home. We put in a heat pump. Cost was $19,000, but we got $3,000 back immediately in a rebate and $2,000 from our taxes. So that was a $5,000 reduction. And we have saved well over $1,000 this winter. Okay. So the big change is coming next. The Inflation Reduction Act established major further discounts and rebates for home energy efficiency. But the problem is the money has not been set up yet. So even though the bill passed last year, it's not available yet. The reason is because first federal regulations have to be set to set the way in which you are qualified for the money, what units are qualified, and then they're going to hand the money to the states, which will set up the system to hand out the money. The earliest we're expecting this is the third quarter, probably not before the fourth quarter. Okay, they're based on your income compared to median income. And because the relevant income is that of the resident, they will apply if you're a renter. So really helps. So what happens? Sonoma County median income is surprisingly high. 79,000 for one person, 90,000 for two. So if you had 80% of this income or less, this is your, think of your federal taxable income line on your federal tax form. If you had less than 63,000, you would be able to get 100% of the numbers I'm going to show you in a second. If your income is less than 118,000, you get 50%. And higher if you have a two-person household. And the rebates are talking about for a heat pump, $8,000, water heater, $4,000, electric stove, $800. If you do a whole home energy reduction program, okay, that isn't necessarily installing these things. That's all the stuff we talked about with insulation, windows, etc. Up to $8,000, and the maximum will be $14,000. It's a lot of money. So if you took my heat pump, 2,100 square foot home, okay, I was down to 14,000. If I had waited and qualified to get this 8,000, it would have cost me $6,000 to put in a new heat pump air conditioner heater. Okay, let's move over to solar. There's been a lot of misunderstanding about what's happening with solar as people complained about the switch from the old compensation system called NEM2 to the new compensation system called NEM3, or also NBT. Now, why is there a problem? The problem is that the solar power is generated during the middle of the day and the energy is used during the evening. So we have now reached the point where we have so much solar power in California that there are times of the day when the value of an additional kilowatt of power is negative. They don't have any place to put the power. Nobody's using it. So what they wanted to do is to switch the program from one that rewarded you for putting in solar and instead rewarded you for putting in solar with the battery and using the battery to move the energy to the evening. I mean, if you look at the extra power that's being used right now, that is coming from very short-term used what are called peaker plants of natural gas. So they will have a natural gas plant that will run for 3 hours a day. Okay, yeah. So effective now, new installations of solar will be more economic if they include a battery. Now, that's because they're going to take what's called time of use pricing. So they will give you a higher benefit if you make your power available in the energy evening when it's needed. The exact program details will be announced in December. In the interim, if you put in a new installation, you still get the old rates up until when the new rates become effective. All solar installations, panels, batteries are eligible for a 30% tax credit. There has been a long-standing problem in batteries because batteries could not separately be eligible. They are now separately eligible. If for some reason you can't take the tax credit, there are usually companies available. Your installer will understand them, where someone else purchases the system, takes the credit, and then charges you a monthly charge. However, batteries for many Oakmont residents will have a steep discounted price due to the SGIP program. So you may be able to have a battery even without having solar panels, although I would recommend. Now, some of you may have heard of the SGIP program. Let me start by saying that in the past, that was a program where there was a limited amount of money and it ran out pretty quickly. And so most solar installers wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. It was too complicated, too much paperwork, and you wouldn't necessarily get the money. But the new program, there's a lot of money in it because of what they want to accomplish. So if you don't have medical baseline, it'll pay roughly 15 to 20% of the cost. But if you have medical baseline and you either live in a tier 2 or 3 high fire threat district, that's about a third of Oakmont. Anybody who's uphill, Annandale side, Stonebridge Road, or Oakmont Drive, or your house has been subjected to at least 2 PSPS events in the last 5 years. That's almost all of Oakmont. Okay. It will pay close to 100%. So I can tell you from people who have been able to do this that it really does pay about 100% of the cost of the battery. So the way to proceed, if you now think you want to do this, contact an installer. There's a list available at the OVA Architectural Office. Normal issues. The OVA list is when there's somebody who's installed 3 units or done for any contractor. There's a list at the Architectural Office. If that contractor has worked for 3 people in Oakmont and they have recommended the contractor to the Architectural Office, then in fact, that person will be on that list. but you still want to do the things you would normally do in qualifying the contractor. You want to ask for references here in Oakmont. You want to call those people and ask how it worked and make sure that you're satisfied that that particular contractor, in this case, a solar installer, can do the job to your satisfaction. Be sure to ask the installer that they will agree to work on the battery, and they have batteries and the paperwork for the SGIP program. Don't be surprised if they say we could do the solar in 3 weeks and the battery will be 3 months. Okay, because batteries are in notoriously short supply. Ask the installer to verify your qualifications and recognize the whole process will take a little bit of time. Okay, quick update on electric vehicles. The new program is there is a tax credit of $7,500. It's only available if your individual income is below $150,000 or your joint income below $300,000. The problem is that there's very complicated rules on which cars qualify. And I can't tell you which cars meet those rules, but the Treasury Department is expected to announce which cars will meet the rules next week. So hold on and we'll find out. Now, the cars that qualify in 2023, there will be different cars in 2024 for two reasons. One is the criteria to qualify gets tougher. So some cars that qualify this year may not qualify next year. And the second is all the automakers know where the money is. And so they're trying to figure out how to get into this particular category, and more cars will qualify. However, if you buy a used car, you can get a tax credit of 30% right now, up to $4,000. Your income needs to be below $75,000 as an individual or $150,000 joint, and the car has to cost less than $25,000. But if that's true, you have a tax credit. Okay, we've tried to walk you through a whole bunch of ways to save money on your energy. I hope this has been a productive program, and look forward to seeing you at a future meeting.